Hi, this is Arun here with Liferay Tutorials. This is our fourth session on Liferay development. In the previous session, we have seen how to configure Liferay development environment in Eclipse IDE. In this session, we will learn how to create a Liferay portlet and running in Liferay portal. Here I have opened up my Eclipse IDE. You can see my Liferay server running over here. I'm just going to click start and my Liferay server will be starting up now in my Eclipse. So in the meantime, I'm going to create a Liferay portlet. So how to create a portlet? Here we have new Liferay project option we have, or we can go into the other. Scroll down here, you can see Liferay. Here you can select Liferay portlet like that. But I'm going to show you, here you have an icon here. You just click here and a drop down will come like new Liferay project and new Liferay project from existing source. I'm just going to create a new Liferay project. So now by default it is selected a portlet, and you have SDK over here that we have earlier. We have configured our Liferay plugin as SDK, and we have configured our server. The server will be we put it in start. It's starting now. Now I'm going to create the portlet name as my first portlet. So let's see how a portlet will be getting created over here, and I'm clicking on next. Here I am selecting Liferay MVC framework. Liferay MVC framework is a simple framework which is used in Liferay plugin projects. We will be using for portlet development. We'll be using this Liferay MVC, and we have options for JSF2 and Vadin. So I'll be covering this Vadin framework in a later on. I'm planning to create another tutorial for Vadin portlet creations, and Vadin framework we need to learn in that. That will be a separate tutorial. So here I'm going to select my Liferay MVC and click on finish. So let's see what will happen when I create a Liferay portlet. Remember, I have named my portlet as my first portlet. Let us see how it is getting created. See, now you can see in my project package explorer, it is my first portlet project has been created with a directory structure doc root. Inside doc root we have webinf and src. So here is the webinf, and this src is mapped over here. You can see this is the Eclipse property they will be creating in this way, and Liferay Portlet plugin APIs are here, and JRE by default for every Eclipse project you will be getting a JRE and JRE system library, and this is our Liferay Tomcat server we have configured. And inside doc root you can see a view.jsp. I'll be explaining later what is the view.jsp and this icon.png. And outside the root directory, not outside the root directory, in the root directory we can see a build.xml, that is an ant build file. And here inside my webinf I can see few files called web.xml, portlet.xml, Liferay plugin package.properties file, and Liferay Display.xml, also a TLD folder which contains some tag libs. Also you can see meta-inf, that is manifest.mf file is there, and a JS folder that contains a main.js, and a CSS folder which contains a CSS files. Now we have seen our project directory structure for a Liferay Portlet. So all the files which we are going to write is inside our doc-root directory. So inside doc-root directory we are creating a web.inf file. It is always, it is when we are using Eclipse will be creating for us web.inf and a JavaScript directory which is for runtime scripts, and client side scripts we will be using in the main.js, and in main.css we will be mentioning some CSS for our Portlet. So Portlet also just like a web application we are creating. It's for when we are using Liferay Portlet structure, it is only the difference is we have a doc-root directory for our application creation. And here I am just opening up the view.jsp file. I'll be explaining the other configuration files, what are all the other configuration files we have using. So just let me explain you a view.jsp. So view.jsp is the JSP file which we are seeing in the front end within the Liferay portal. So when we are adding this particular portlet in our public or private pages, or wherever we are creating a page and we are adding our portlet into a page, we can see this particular portlet, this particular view page in that portlet content. So let me show my server is already started here. It is showing started. Let me open up my Liferay window. I'm just right button clicking and clicking on open Liferay portal home. So it will give me the portal home opened up. Okay, now I'm going for sign in. We know we have already created a user called test@liferay.com with a password test. I'm just signing in. Now we can see the signing in operation are happening, and the console, Tomcat console is printing something there. The logs are there. Okay, now I have logged in as Arun. I'm just going to my public pages. Let me go to my public pages. It will open my public pages. I'm just clicking on go to my public pages. So this is the public page which external users also can see my public page. But if I am going to my private pages, no others can view my private pages, because it is required an authentication and authorization, that is I need to log into my private pages. So then only I can see my private pages. Now I am going to my public pages and will see what is over there. Let's not worry about the exception happening. It's the behind screen exception. Let's forget about that. So here you can see there is some portlets over here. We have blogs, search, activities, language, etc. So if I want to add more portlets over here, I have, as an administrator, I have an add operation, add button here. I'm just clicking on add and clicking on more. See here is some portlets called collaboration and community, like that. So some portlets set is there. So I'm just clicking on news, and I'm just going for adding an alerts portlet. So this is one portlet I have. This is an inbuilt portlet with Liferay. So just adding this portlet over here and closing this. This portlet will be enabled over here. So in the meantime, I'm going to open up a new browser and copy this particular public page URL, and opening up my browser. Yeah, I'm clicking on the Liferay home. This is not Liferay home, this is Arun, the particular user Arun. You can see the URL created as localhost 8080 web and Arun and home. So this is Arun's public home we are going to look into. Don't forget we paused our session in creating a portlet. So here is a portlet which we have added. Entries, manage entries, like that we have added a portlet over here. So that portlet didn't come up over here. Oops. Okay. Let us see another portlet. Let us add another portlet called. There is no alerts. That's why that portlet didn't pop up over there. I'm just going and adding a hello world, sample hello world is there. So now this portlet is publicly added. Liferay community version hello world portlet is added over here. I just refresh this Arun's home. Remember this particular page I didn't logged in, but here you can see a sign in button. So if I want to log in, I can log in with any username password, any user which is existing with Liferay. And only thing we have is we are seeing the page of Arun. So Arun is added a hello world portlet over here, and that portlet is added over here. So that's what we have seen in this particular session. Okay, then now what I'm going to show you is the portlet view which you have seen in the hello world. So here is the hello world one, and the same way that is coming from a view.jsp. So this is my first portlet. So I'm just mentioning some names. I'm mentioning Arun and okay, let me say it as name colon Arun. Let's give a BR tag. I'm just giving email as Arun Panchavadi at gmail.com. Let me remove this particular line. So now my project view.jsp is created in this way. I just want to run this in my server. What I'll do, I'll give click on right button on the project and run on server. Select the Tomcat which is already running. Add the portlet, my first portlet. Just finishing this. Let us see in the console. You are seeing in the console means it's the Tomcat console. Tomcat console is seeing copying on file to see users Liferay portlet. So this is my Liferay directory, and this deployment is happening automatically. The Liferay plugin deployment is happening automatically, and this server got updated with the new portlet, and so that is what happened. Now I am going to my Liferay portal again. I already logged into this Liferay portal. I just refresh this particular page. Let us see what will happen. So now I want to see my portlet over here. So I already installed my portlet. That will be coming up in the sample portlet. Here you can see my first portlet. That is the portlet which I have created now. I'll show you how this display name comes as my first portlet and why it came under category sample, etc. Those kind of things I'll be explaining you. Let me add this portlet into my page, my public page. So what will happen? Now my first portlet is added over here publicly. I just want to make this display over here. I can drag and drop where I wanted to display. Okay, so that is the thing. I added my portlet, my first portlet, into my public page. That is in the right hand side I have added. Now we are going back to the browser window, which is not logged in browser, and I am going to click a refresh. So now you have seen my first portlet has arrived over here, and it is mentioning this is my first portlet and name is Arun, email is Arun Panchavadi. So from where this display came up? This display came up from the view.jsp. Now we need to see what are all the configuration files which we have used for our first Liferay portlet. Okay, see, here is the build.xml, which is we using for generating var files and all. Here nothing is added over here in the build.xml. We can add our build functionality, like when we are going to deploy a portlet, we are generating a var file and deploying the var file into our deploy folder. So that is when we are going to finishing our portlet development and deploying in the portal, we will be using the build.xml. Now by default we need to see few configurations with the web.inf in the web.inf folder. Here one configuration we are using is web.xml, which is just like our normal web application, our servlet JSP applications. We will be using a web.xml. That web.xml will be called as the deployment descriptor. So it is mentioning what are all the things which we are going to use inside our web application. So those kind of configurations we will be writing down in the web.xml. In this portlet also there is nothing different. Here we are calling it as a deployment descriptor. Here we have configured a JSP config, and inside that a taglib URI we have configured, and another taglib URI we have configured. I'll be telling you these two URIs. What is these two URIs? Here is the AUI, that is an alloy UI side scripting, which is related to Liferay. We'll be using something like in the normal JSP we will be using JSTL. If you have worked with JSTL, you know, something like tag libs, some form items which we are using, some C colon form, like that, C colon out and form colon form, and for so those kind of things we will be writing down in using a tag lib. For that, here we have a alloy UI plugin, so that will be using over here. That is TLD is added in the web.inf TLD directory. Here you can see that, and also the other stuff we are looking into is java.sun.com portlet 2.0. So what is this is, there is two portlet specification, that is one is portlet version 1 and portlet version 2, which is one is JSR 168 and the second is 286. So the portlet 2 is JSR 286 portlet 2 version. So that version we are using over here for our portlet description. Say if you are googling it, what is the difference between JSR 168 and 286, you can see so many differences. Like in the portlet 2 version there is added something like Ajax functionalities, and in portlet communication, those kind of things are added in the upgraded version of portlet development. So that is a portlet URI we have mentioned over here. By seeing this, will be the compiler, the Tomcat server will be identifying this is a portlet 2 specification, and will be using that. And in JSR 286 we have another configuration called portlet.xml. This portlet.xml will be containing the portlet descriptions. Like when we are going for a servlet project, we were configuring our servlet paths and all inside our web.xml itself. So here we have a portlet.xml for mentioning that. So here you can see the portlet, one tag lib we are using the portlet, and here the portlet name, this is my first portlet, and the display name I have given as my first portlet. All these things, when we are creating the portlet project, these things also will be generated automatically. And here is a class, you can see portlet class com.liferay util bridges MVC portlet. So this is a kind of a front controller for the portlet MVC portlet. So this is added by default, and here is an init param, view template is the init param, and view.jsp is added over here. So this is the initial when our portlet is initializing, we will be seeing this view.jsp. And expiration cache 0, I'll be explaining this later. This is a kind of caching the pages, and also those things I'll be explaining in the next tutorials. And here the MIME type is text.html we have, and portlet information we have, portlet info we have given, and roles. This is an important thing. Who are all the people who can view the roles? So here I can see the portlet can be visible to an administrator, a guest, and a power user, and a user. So if I remove the guest, in my public page also people cannot see my portlet, because the roles who are all the people who can view my portlet, I have configured. These are the people, these are the roles which I am showing my portlet. So if I am configuring, if I am removing any other users from my portlet, so those users will not be able to see my first portlet. So that is the configuration inside the portlet.xml. Now we need to look into the Liferay Portlet.xml. In the Liferay Portlet.xml, we will be mentioning some Liferay specific configurations we will be putting into. Here we have putting the Liferay Portlet app. Here we have Portlet, and the Portlet name, my first Portlet, and the icon.png, and icon name we have mentioned. So when we are seeing our Liferay Portlet, we are seeing an icon over here. So this is what the icon.png we have mentioned. It is in the path of the web-inf, not in web-inf, in the doc root path of our Portlet project. So we will be mentioning that particular section over here. And the header Portlet CSS. So header Portlet CSS is the one which we have created our main.css in the CSS folder. That is need to be added in the head tag of our Portlet. And the footer Portlet JavaScript. So this is where we are configuring the JavaScript files for our client side script, which is in the body we will be adding. And here is the CSS class wrapper. So my first Portlet we are mentioning. And one thing I wanted to mention, I forgot to say about instanceable. Instanceable is the one which we are configuring. We can we can have multiple instances of this particular Portlet in a portal page, or whether we can have only one. If we are mentioning false, means we can have only one Portlet in the particular page. And here is the other things, role mapper, user role mapper, which we had done the same thing in the portlet.xml. So this is mapping our users. And the next file we need to look into is Liferay plugin package.properties. This is where we are adding our jar files. So suppose we need to add some library files, jar files, which is already running with our Liferay project. Liferay means Liferay portal. So then we can add those jar files into the properties file. We don't need to include that particular files in our that particular library files in our web-inf lib folder. So how we will add? We have a source over here and a properties over here. So here you can click on properties and you can add your jar files here from alloy tag lib jar file or any other jar file. You can take it from here, and you want, so for an example, I just wanted to add a groovy.jar over here. So how it will be adding over here? Here it will be mentioning the portal dependency jars as groovy jar. If I want to add more jar files, I can add from here and again I am adding another jar file. You need to see how the XML, how the properties file is splitting up the jar files. You can separate a slash and a groovy jar file and comma, and again a slash and asm comments jar, comma, again a slash and aspect rt dot jar. I just don't want to add any jar files for my current project, so I'll just go and remove all these projects. So you can see this. So this is the about login Liferay plugin package dot properties file, and the next is Liferay Display XML. So the Liferay Display XML is showing about mentioning about where in our portal page, where in the dock bar is the one which we are seeing at the top of the page. So let me refresh this particular page. You can see in the top of the page you can see a dock bar there, in which category this particular portlet need to be added. So that is what about our, that is what it is mentioning in the Liferay Display XML. I'll show you that configurations now. Yeah, now this Liferay Display XML is opened up. So here I have mentioned category sample. So you might have seen earlier when I was adding this in the Liferay portal, I was adding my first portlet. So that time I was taken it from a sample category. Let me log in again. This got signed out because of the session timing. I'm just signing in. So this is what the dock bar. So in the top you can see the control, edit controls, manage, and those things you can see. That is what the dock bar. So earlier we have seen our first portlet was added in the sample category. Here we have added our my first portlet. You were seeing that. So now what is happening is I am going to remove this from this particular one. I just want to add a new category over here, and in that category my particular portlet will be displaying. So I just creating a new category. Some error has occurred. Let me delete, and I'll create it from the design window. So what I can do is I can go to the create window, right button click, add category. So here I have the category name. So I'm giving as my portlets. The category name I'm giving as my portlets. So this particular category got created. So now I have my portlets category. Inside my portlet category I am cutting this particular one and pasting it over here from the category.sample. Let me save it. So this time what will happen, my category, this application, this particular portlet category will be my portlets. So I'll be seeing my portlet category over here. I'm just going to refresh my portal page. I just click on add. You can see inside the sample, see my portlet is not there, and here I have my portlets category created, and I have my first portlet over here. So I already added my first portlet over here, so I cannot add it again. So anyway this is what in this session we have covered about what are all the important files in an in our portlet project. So these are the important files. We have a web.xml and a portlet.xml, which is a portlet specification 286, that is JSR 286 application, and a portlet Liferay portlet.xml, which we will be configuring our Liferay specific configurations, and the Liferay plugin package properties will be adding our TLD files, jar files, which is already inside Liferay. So those we can mention in our Liferay plugin package.properties, and in Liferay Display.xml we will be mentioning in which area, which category under the dock bar we will be displaying our Liferay Portlet. And one more thing, the icon.png, you can change any png file we wanted to show as an icon, we can add it over here. And the css file and javascript customizations we can do in whenever we want to do some customization we can do that. But right now I haven't explained any of those areas, and also we need to cover how we can call from front end to a controller class file, so how we will be passing information, and we need to understand the two phases of a portlet, that is a action phase and a rendering phase. Those areas we will be covering in our next session. Keep watching my Liferay portal tutorials. Reach me at arunpanchavadi@gmail.com. Thank you.